Hi, this is Rob and Mike from the McClelland Financial Group, and this is Think Smart with TMFG.
How you doing, Rob?
I'm pretty good today.
It's a good day. We just had McClelland University on the weekend, and it was great hearing all the different speakers and all the different topics. It was interesting. We did a presentation together, and you started to do your presentation on how we got to where we are today. And a great piece of it was a timeline you created. And I was looking at all the different parts of the timeline. Interesting one, we were discussing the insurance timeline. Give me some details on that, where you came up with that.
Well, you know, it was interesting. I initially got my insurance license back in 1992, and it was relatively easy to get. I was never that comfortable with insurance. The basic things like life insurance I could do. Disability insurance was a little more complicated. And so we started, after a few years, to farm it out a little bit. Do you remember some of the people that we had?
Yeah, the first one we had early on was we actually got introduced from a gentleman who sold all insurance, but was based on the Manulife headquarters, and his name was Michael Sinclair. We got lucky because we still use him today, so he's been a big piece of our insurance offering. Later on, we used some different people, like Martin Grimbo was someone out of Asante who we used, and then later we had a few people from, we started trying to bring it in-house.
So, when I looked at the timeline, I realized probably the major reason that we brought it in-house was because some of the things that had happened to me personally, starting back in 2011. And I think what was interesting is in 2009, you and I had gone and reviewed our own life insurance, our insurance through the business, our disability insurance, and for the first time we had actually put a critical illness policy in place for both of us. And the crazy thing is, 2 years later, I had to use it. And, I found out that I had cancer. It was considered a non-curable type of cancer, and very quickly I had to start collecting disability, which I never thought I'd have to collect. And eventually I received payment from the critical illness policy, which was also interesting. At the same time, you were going through some issues with family members as well. What was that like?
Oh, similar type of thing. I had a sister who passed away from cancer, then I had a brother who was diagnosed with cancer right afterwards. And he had to use both the disability, which got him through a bunch of years. Unfortunately, he did pass away, and life insurance helped take care of his spouse. So all that came into play. The interesting thing is when we sat down and we originally started to talk about insurance, when they came back with a quote on how much it was going to cost to insure both of us, we both looked at each other and thought, wow, this is expensive. And, we went home and thought about it for a day. We came back and we said, okay, this is our business. We believe in it. Our first question is, do we believe in this or don't we believe in this? And both of us said, we do believe insurance is a necessary part of your plan. And from there, we said, okay, this is what it costs, and let's put it in place.
The crazy thing was, during that 2-year period, we had a couple of events personally. One with our son, who was driving a car. We were in the car with him, and we were in a car accident. And the car accident ended up costing $40,000 worth of damage, but we had insurance, and insurance covered the cost of it. At the same time, we had this crazy leak in our roof in our kitchen that had just been renovated, and literally I think that was $60,000, and the first person who did the work didn't do a great job, and believe it or not, 12 months later we had another leak that was another $40,000. So we wouldn't think twice about not having car insurance or house insurance, but most people have a really hard time with life insurance. Why is that?
Well, the problem is everyone believes it's not going to happen to me. And this is set in our personality as human beings. We tend to be positive, and we don't want to think this stuff can affect me. I know in your situation, geez, you probably missed 2 days of work in the previous 20 years before that. So disability seems like a silly waste of money until something happens. And that's the key, that you have to stop looking at everyone with that attitude that everyone's going to always be fine, always be healthy. You have to protect the risks, and it's a whole different way of looking at the situations.
Well, what I realized when I went through it is how valuable an asset I was to my family and our future earnings. And so, the two things happened. One, I received the funds from the critical illness policy, which, helped to pay off some debt, allowed me to get some different types of treatment that I might not have otherwise been able to access. And finally, I was off for pretty much 12 months and probably another 6 months where I was at half speed, and the disability policy helped to cover the time in between that. And if worse came to worse and I didn't make it through, I had a pretty good life insurance policy in place to protect my family, who were all still pretty young at the time, with 3 kids.
Problem with insurance is everyone's always looking, because we're financial people, everyone wants everything we sell to make 100% financial sense, guaranteed. Everyone wants that guarantee and to make it to be financially profitable. Insurance is a different item, right? Your goal in life is to have insurance be the worst investment in your life. That's everyone's goal. That's a good thing. Unfortunately, that's not always the case, because things do happen. If you're going to live forever and nothing's going to go wrong, of course you don't need insurance. But reality sets in. Because we deal with 700 clients, we see a lot of reality. And when we look at people, we have to realize that there's a good chance that anyone, no matter what they look like, no matter how healthy they look in front of you, can run into that reality.
If you start with even just basic life insurance, if you've got children, under the age of 18, or possibly a spouse that doesn't work, you need life insurance to replace your income if something happened. Disability insurance, I think, is a really interesting one today, because so many people don't get that benefit from their company. A lot of them are working from home, they're on contract, or they've got their own business, and they just can't mentally justify spending the dollars that insurance costs. It's not cheap. So, I look at it very differently, which is why we ended up bringing this whole thing in-house. I used to say we didn't do a great job in insurance. I think we do a much better job today. And when things get more complicated, we still turn to an outside expert to help us out. The goal at the end of the day is to make sure the client is properly insured. Estate insurance is a different animal, though. I thought we should touch on that briefly. I think a lot of it depends on what the client's wishes are when they're gone, and how much they want to leave behind. What do you find?
I find it doesn't work in everyone's situations, but for the situations it does work in, it's a great investment. The trick is there has to be money that you're never going to need in your lifetime. And I find the big problem is people do tend to oversell universal life and whole life policies because they're trying to use it as a full financial investment. It's really taking money that you would never spend in your lifetime and growing it in a very tax-efficient manner for your children or for your charity or wherever you'd like that to go. And if it fits for you, it's a great investment. But it's a unique situation it fits.
I look back at some of the policies that I put in place 20 years ago, and the people are still living, but those were great, I think, investments that we made way back when. At the time, it seemed relatively expensive. Looking back at it today, it really wasn't that expensive, and yet those clients have proper estate insurance that they wanted. Whether it be they want it because they've got a lot of children, whether they want to make sure those children have the assets that they had, whatever the reason is, I think there's a place for it. It's not for everyone, though. And I accept that. Some clients say, my children are going to get enough. I didn't get much. If they get $500,000, $1 million, I'm more than happy.
Yeah. There's not many tax shelters left in Canada, so if it does fit, it definitely makes sense to take advantage of.
I think that's good today. We're big believers in insurance. If it's something you ever want to talk about, please don't hesitate to call. Thanks, and have a great day.